Welcome to the Centennial Ferry Cruise put on by the Southwest Seattle Historical Society. I want to thank you all for coming. My name is Clay Eals, and we'll be introducing a number of other people. I want to say thank you to all of the people who came dressed in period costume. I was afraid before I came that would be a very apt pun, that it would be the punctuation mark for any dressing up I ever did in the rest of my life. But this is just wonderful. We have a lot of people here dressed in all kinds of wonderful costumes. And I want you to give everybody a hand for that. The reason that we're here, obviously, is to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the first ferry on the Sound. And you heard earlier the dates, December 24th, 1888. And the ferry that we're commemorating, the city of Seattle, ran on that run between 1888 and 1913 and went down to San Francisco Harbor. And West Seattle ferry service ended about 1921 on that route with the termination of the West Seattle ferry, which began in 1907. But I want to throw a couple of other dates at you too. And one of them is 1983. That was when we first started meeting to get the Southwest Seattle Historical Society off the ground. And in 1986 we were chartered. This is the historical society that covers all of West Seattle and White Center. And we're very proud of the fact that this is our first event and it's such a success. We will have plenty of events to come in 1989, and I urge all of you to become involved in planning them and become a part of the activities that the Centennial is inspiring in all of this. Elliot Cowden in the way back is going to be, he'll have my head if I don't mention that there are membership forms on the table. And those of you who are not members should pick one of those up. This is the kind of thing we want to do. We want to not only honor and display some history, some heritage, but we want to have fun at the same time. This is the kind of thing that brings the community together. I have some introductions to make, and I hope that I can find all of these people, at least maybe they can doff their hats or wave their hands when I mention them. And there are so many people on this boat who deserve introduction. I run the risk of leaving people out, but I want you to know who a few of these people are for sure. The first person, and I don't see him, he must be behind somebody else, is Putnam Barber. There he is. He's the director of the State Centennial Commission. Let's give him a hand. We also have from the King County Centennial Commission staff, Charlotte Jacobs, right here, and Chris Wells, and Donna Stepp. And we have some commissioners from the King County Centennial Commission, Marshall Paris, he's right here, and he's moved to Bellevue, but we'll still call him a West Seattleite. John Carlson, where will we find him? There he is. And Ralph Hayes. Ralph, will you stand? Here he is. Ralph Hayes. These people have been working every day doing things for the Centennial and stirring up interest. We have a couple of elected officials here. We have Phil Talmadge, State Senator from West Seattle. And Georgette Valley, where is she? Right in the back. King County Council member Greg Nichols was to be here, but I don't think he made the boat. I haven't seen him up or down. But I want to introduce Bob Grieve, former King County Council member. I think I saw him once. We have a person without whom a lot of this wouldn't be possible. It seems he's kind of invisible in this sense, but he's very important to introduce, and that's Jerry Brocky, president of South Seattle Community College, which has provided us a home. Where's Jerry? He's in the back. We've got our two ferry captains aboard. It's Don Moss down here. He's on the bridge. How about Captain Bill Henshaw? Right here. He's the one who's been narrating. He's had 38 years on the Sound as a ferry captain and over 7,000 runs under his belt, all over the Sound. He knows it like the back of his hand. I want to mention the 4 hostesses from the West Seattle organization, High Profiles. They are the ones who are greeting you. They're led by Susan Ralton of West Seattle. Can you give them a hand? I wanted to save a special introduction for Betsy Detroit, who is not only a King County Centennial Commission member from West Seattle, but she's been instrumental in getting tickets sold and other planning. That's right, in the Santa hat. And then we have our cruise planning committee. We have John Ashford, our treasurer, right in the middle of the room. We have Elliot Cowden, the founder and past president of the Historical Society, and our secretary. And Neil Lockett, where are you? Neil Lockett is our vice president. Is he aboard up above? Anyway, he deserves a hand. He has been involved in this quite heavily. And then we have Brad Chrisman, who is not only a member of our planning committee, but he's the guy who had the idea for this cruise in the first place. And I'm going to give you him for a few minutes. And get your song sheets out.
Well, this is just so gratifying to see everybody here today. When was it? We spent about a year a while ago doing research and all the writing and everything else that went into the production of West Side Story, which is the history of the West Seattle and White Center area. And it was during that time when I was doing some research on this, on the history, when I kept seeing this date 1888 pop up in connection with the first run of the ferry City of Seattle, and it finally dawned on me in the wee hours of one morning as I was reading through some old stuff, and I thought, boy, we ought to do this again. This is something that sounded like a lot of fun. We really ought to have a cruise sometime in December of 1988 to commemorate that. And looks like we've really pulled it off. Give yourselves a big hand for being here. I think this is great. When we started planning events as a historical society to look at things we could do during the Centennial year, we were planning things to do during the Centennial year, and almost as a joke, just thinking out loud, off the top of my head, I brought this up, something that had been in the back of my mind. Like I said, we ought to do a cruise to commemorate the first run of the City of Seattle. And I said it, and the room sort of went silent, and we all started looking at each other and thinking, yeah, wait a minute, let's not just dismiss that might be a good idea. So I have to tell you, I had chills go up my spine when we finally turned from Seattle and started heading off toward West Seattle, and the ferry, the whistle went off here on the boat, and the sun came out, and we made our run across the bay. Incidentally, the old ferry, the City of Seattle, as they were saying earlier, made its runs in 8 minutes. And we had a lot of fun when we were putting together the book and trying to figure out, in all the time since then, have we improved on that? And the answer really is no. If you get in your car right now on Duwamish Head and try and drive at the speed limit over the new, how many $1 million, $80 million bridge or something that we built, it still takes about 9.5 minutes. So that old City of Seattle ferry was a lot faster. And we took about 12 minutes today. So we came close, we tried, but what the heck. Speaking of West Side Story, there are copies of the book, The History of West Seattle and White Center, for sale on that table right back there. If you don't have a copy, this is a convenient time to pick one up. There are softcover and hardcover versions available. The softcover versions are $5 and the hardcovers are $25. There's also copies of Paul Dorpat's Now and Then book from Paul Dorpat. Normally those sell for $12.50, but I understand that here we're offering them at somewhat of a discount from that, I think $10. And $2 from that would go to the Southwest Historical Society. All the proceeds from sale of West Side Story will go to the Historical Society. So that would be a nice boost for our society as we try and plan other events during the year. One other thing about the Historical Society and all this stuff is that this is just sort of our own little kickoff during the Centennial year. Our state turns 100 years old on November 11th, 1989, so we still have several months to go before that happens, and we'd like to have several other events happen. We have a flyer that we'll be handing out later about a planning meeting on January 10th, thank you, that we'll be having to plan other events during the Centennial year. I hope that if you have ideas, if you would like to just help any way you think you might be of assistance or lend a little support to our Centennial year, that you'll come to this planning meeting. What we have here is, one of the things we uncovered as we were doing some research on West Seattle history was this booster song of West Seattle here. And incidentally, this goes to the tune of Tramp, 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 which is a little before my time, but I understand it was a World War I song. When the city of Seattle began running back in 1888, a Civil War song. Hey, my history gets really bad when you get out of the West Seattle West Center area. I totally fall from there. I have no idea. Civil War, West Seattle wasn't even there in the Civil War, so I don't even care. Okay. Well, you mean it was actually there? It didn't just, God didn't create it in 1888? Oh, okay. When the city of Seattle ran, it was originally started by the West Seattle Land and Improvement Company, and their purpose really in starting the ferry and the cable car line after that, and most of the improvements that happened in the early history of the West Seattle area, was to sell lots, sell property. So make money, that's the name, that's the bottom line. And so we thought this song here would be particularly appropriate on this cruise. And without further ado, I don't know what we need to do. It's to the tune of Tramp, Tramp, Tramp. And what do we need to do?
What we need to do, the band is gonna practice the songs. No. Well, what we'll do, we'll play it through once, and then we're going to sing it as it is on the DVD.
Sounds good. And it's real dangerous. He gave me a microphone, and we're all singing, so you never know what's going to happen. He was the owner of the first grocery store in the town of West Seattle, and one of the interesting things, as I was getting into this, was I know his grandson is a friend of my father's, and I found this out that he's this character. I always wondered why my dad's friend was so wacky, and now I find out. He writes these crazy poems. This is the hard part. We have to sing Washington My Home, which has to be one of the more obscure state songs in, in the history of the nation. Or we have an option. There was a drive not too many years ago to change the state song to Louie Louie. So if you all want to do Louie Louie, say Louie Louie, well, maybe not. Okay, we'll give this a try. In discussing this with the band, we decided that the first verse that you see here is totally obscure. We have no idea even what the melody line or even how to approach this. So, the second one that starts, Washington My Home, and maybe I could just sort of, it goes something like this.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do, Brad.
Okay.
We're going to play the last 8 measures, which is sort of the same as the first 8 measures as the introduction. And then, okay?
That's right. And if you don't do it right this time, we're going to make you do it over and over and over again until we get off this boat. So you're going to do it. That's right.
1, 2, 1, introduction.
Rush here.
Let's do another chorus of this. Yeah.
One more time!
Hey, yeah. Wait.
My nose is running. His nose is running. Okay.
1, 2, 3,
I can live with there. Let's put up tempo this thing a little bit, you know? Come on, let's get with the 1980s.
Don't make your nose run.
That's my problem. I can't.
All right. I don't know if there's anything else we need to do except that if anyone wants to, if anyone's interested in buying a hat, I have one for sale right after the cruise. And there's this line I've been waiting to use for all year long, and I haven't used it yet. So I just want to say that Centennials only come up every 100 years or so, so I'm just glad you guys can all be here. Where do we go from here? I don't know. Where are we? And if anyone wants to use it, that's okay too. Clay, it's back to you. Thank you.
Let's give a hand to Brad Kurtzman here. Just have a couple of little things to say. First of all, today is a special day in a lot of ways, as you know, but we have a proclamation from Tim Hill, the King County Executive, who has said that today is Southwest Seattle Historical Society Day. Let's give him a And could I have someone at the table hold up one of the mementos? No, one of the mementos, one of the certificates. Bud Barber is holding up your personalized memento of the trip. And is Joanne Ross around? Where is she? There she is in the back. She's the one who lettered these. There is a certificate for everyone here with your name on it, and you will get it when you leave the boat. And for those of you who came at the last minute, we will mail you your mementos. So be sure to take it with you. It's suitable for framing or saving or whatever. The PUD is suggesting that since they've got the names on them, that you get them close to the end of the boat ride, not right at the end, because it will be a big lineup. As it gets close to 4 o'clock, you might want your way by there and get your memento. Thank you all for coming, and we'll turn it over to the Duwamish-Dixieland Band. Let's give them a hand. Thank you all for coming.
Finally tonight, a celebration this afternoon on Seattle's waterfront to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Puget Sound ferry boats. 250 passengers on board the Virginia 5 retraced the first ever ferry route on Puget Sound, and that first sailing on Christmas Eve 1888 transported people from downtown Seattle to West Seattle. But the Virginia 5 isn't the original ferry. That original ferry is the city of Seattle, and it is now a houseboat moored in Sausalito, California. Gosh, would be nice to have it up here. That's it for now. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock.